Hello and welcome to Grinding Meaning number 46, Dog Psychology and Community Service. This is going to be a bit lighter. I've been a bit on the dark stuff of late, but the interesting stuff isn't hard to get to because it's too sophisticated. A lot of the most interesting things go unnoticed because people don't want to consider the malevolence of others. So, if you're sufficiently stoic, you can explore these things without becoming cynical. But that's not tonight. Tonight, it's a story. It's an interesting story. About some stuff I learned, and a lot of it I didn't figure out till later. During the recession, you know what, I got a little background here. I need to turn that down. So I figure I'll just go for a walk. I need to turn that down some more. Go for a walk in GTA. During the recession, not the current one, I suppose debatable, but the one in the mid-2000s, I was binge watching a lot of shows. I'd already left cable behind in like the early 2000s, and I believe it was Hulu. What's your problem, dude? Where I was able to watch several seasons of The Dog Whisperer, which was fascinating to me. Something about that, the interaction and the psychology of it. It was one of those things where I'm like, oh, this is so cool. It's probably bull. And I had time on my hands, so I thought I would call up the local animal shelter. I'll just make you wait. No. And I've got my my little gamepad anti-micro software, so I can auto walk. I'm not holding this the whole time. So this was also during a period where I'd sort of picked up the mantra of using my social awkwardness as a wayfinder for improvement, and making myself go out and do things that I would not normally choose to do and would typically avoid, but going out and doing them. And I'm not sure how I could convince myself to do this, but I called up the animal shelter, the local animal shelter, and to ask if they needed dog walkers, which I assume they probably always do. What is wrong with you people? Oddly enough, the person who normally answers the phone wasn't there, and I actually was talking to the director. And I asked her, it's like, hey, I just want to come in and walk dogs. Is that something that can be done where I'm just coming in to walk dogs? Like, oh, sure, yeah. It really helps, get them socialized, and it gets the stress down, and it does help them find homes, and that was my opinion, and I'm like, okay, cool. And she scheduled me for they have a short orientation, and told me, well, you have to buy a t-shirt, so that, people know you're on staff and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. And came in for orientation. There were two other guys there, and went through it, just showing you where things are at, and, the kind of things that, are going to be expected of us to do. And notice there's like a timesheet, and you had to sign in and out, and it's like, okay, I guess they want to know when we're here, if something happens, they need to know who's in the building. I guess that makes sense. And and then they took two of the guys off. I don't know what they were doing, but then brought me to one of the stalls, and it's like, well, we was basically expecting me to clean up let's say a mess a fecal mess, and I wasn't really down for that. I was there to walk dogs, and that's exactly what I said. Oh, I'm just here to walk dogs. And it's like, do you have? And then I just went right into it. It's like, do you have any dogs that are difficult to walk? Because I would, you know, I've always had an affinity with animals, and you know, that's what I was there to do. And I was just matter of fact about it. I mean, that's I talked to the director, so I really didn't think anything of it. And the woman was just like, okay, sure. And then I started walking dogs. What I didn't know, didn't find out till later, was that the two guys I was in orientation with were actually there for community service. And the person showing us around apparently didn't know that I wasn't, that I was an actual volunteer. And like, if I the funny thing is like, that was like a badass move. And the two other guys also thought that I was there for community service. So at some point, you know, the dude came up and it's like, how'd you get out of doing that? I was like, well, I don't want to do that. You know, I just came here to walk dogs. And it's like, and I was doing really good with the dogs. And that's the big part of the story. And I'll jump to the ending, I suppose, is that it works. If you can, like, how would Caesar put it? Express a dominant energy, which is something way outside my understanding as a socially awkward autistic type. I never liked the idea of ever asserting what I wanted onto other people. Now, if other people were like, you know, trying to push me around, I had the strength to stand up to that, you know, and I did not like that at all. And people, like a lot of people, my lack of wanting to assert myself with others was picked up as a signal of weakness. So I was kind of drawing a lot of that to myself without realizing it. And I'm not sure how much I was aware of this at the time, but I think I understood that if I could figure out how to be more, how to express a dominant energy with dogs, basically how to assert yourself, that it would carry over to humans. And for a long time, I just thought anybody who did that was a jerk. You know, why can't people just be chill and, like, you know, not try to, like, ever impose your will on other people, is the way I put it. But if you aren't able to represent your own interests against the interests of others, it's like you're not even there. You're kind of a ghost of a person. And when people see that, you know, you are lacking in assertiveness, it's like a signal to come in and walk all over you. So before, good 6 months, maybe a year before, basically my plant closed, I'd risen through the ranks from the bottom all the way up to running my own crew, printing softcover school books and catalogs as a 4-person press, and some of what we made was, you know, magazine quality stuff. And I had learned a lot being in a position of authority, and which was something I really wasn't comfortable with. It was my job to, like, tell other people what to do. So coming off of that, you know, I'd sort of realized that, like, hey, sometimes you are the most qualified person to make decisions, and not being able to, like, assert yourself is weakness. And it's something, like I said, I'm not sure how much of it I understood, but going in to walk the dogs, and it is amazing because the carryover to humans was far more than I ever could have expected, because it's the same kind of, like, calm, assertive. Like, there's a difference, and, you know, Caesar talks about this a lot. I'm not being aggressive, I'm being dominant. Although I think I'm actually just quoting South Park, but they captured his essence pretty well. There's actually a video where you could see Caesar does a reaction video to the South Park episode. And if I remember right, he actually does get emotional at the end, where Cartman is basically fixed. He is a good student, he's losing weight, he's respecting his mom, you know, he's treating his friends well, he's a self-starter, he's taking care of everything. He is fixed. But then when Cartman's mom sort of makes the move on the dog whisperer, she says, oh no, we're just friends. I gotta go back to LA. She's like, oh. And then she needs Cartman to be, her son to be her friend again. And she's like offering him stuff to go to the, like a theater, like what is it, opera thing with her. And at the end when she's offering him like 2 Mega Rangers, you hear the music in the background and, you know, the demon will return. And it's so sad. I remember the reaction video, right? That like got it, because that's a really sad thing, because it's almost always the people. And you can come in and show them what needs to be done and how things need to change and how they need to behave differently, and you leave and things just go back to the way they were, because you can't fix the dog when the people are still a problem. But with the dogs, they don't understand a lot of what's going on. So if a dog doesn't feel like you're in control of what's going on, they will be insecure. And if you're insecure, they'll be insecure. And if they don't have like respect or trust for you or confidence in you, many will feel like, well, someone has to be in charge. That's just the way of nature. I'm going to punch that guy just because of that scarf. That's the way it is. A lot of times dogs will be rebellious if their owners have like a weak energy. I hate to use like the foo-foo language, but if they just aren't confident, if they aren't capable of expressing a dominant energy, if they are insecure people, that makes the dog insecure. And if you can be confident and calm and assertive and dominant, dogs are a lot happier. With a lot of them, it was just like just getting them on the walk was important. Now, most people, when they would walk the dogs, they would just take they had like I don't know, like 100, maybe 150 yard patch of sidewalk. See if I can get myself hurt. And they'd take them up one way, take them back the other way, and then bring them back inside. I was rarely gone less than a half hour, because if you went the other way on that sidewalk, there was a trail, and it was kind of a forested area. And I would basically by the end of every walk, they would be slack leash and relaxed. Like everyone, even the most troubled ones. And there's a lot to it. I'm not going to try to capture, you know, several seasons of The Dog Whisperer in one little stream here, but and it's not like, you know, there's a difference between being assertive and being and expressing dominance, because being aggressive is one way of asserting dominance, but it's not what a leader does. I'm not sure how to put this. Well, for example, actually, my daughter had she had some cousins with like this dog that was kind of out of control, not necessarily aggressive, but like did not have respect, and she's sort of starting to get a fear of dogs. So it was really nice to bring my daughter with, and most of the time when we'd go over, she'd just go in and groom the cats, and I would go out and walk dogs, and we'd, you know, meet up later. But I'm like, I need your help. She's like, what do you mean you need my help? Well, there's this dog, and it's really hard to get her to walk, and I think if you were there, you know, it would be more of a group thing, and I could get her moving easier, because I brought her out one other time, and I really couldn't get her moving. But if we're standing on either side, and this is what I explained to her, I got on the sidewalk. It's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to count to 3, but I'm not going to say 3. But when I would have said 3, we're just going to start walking. We're not going to pay any attention to the dog. The leash is there and stuff, but like, and this is just what we're doing. We're not thinking about it. And then I'm just going to start talking about something. And she's like, how's that going to work? It's like, well, it's hard to explain, but we'll just start doing it. And it was a smaller dog, so she didn't have to be afraid. And she's like, that's, you know, it was one of those dogs where there's just no way to get it to move. It just kind of plops down. And sure enough, we just started walking, and it's like, oh, this is what we're doing now? Okay. And then we went for a long walk, and I'm like, I thanked her. She's like, what do you mean? All I did was walk. It's like, no, I couldn't do this without you. And there were a lot of fearful dogs. And there was one that was just terrified of the cars that went by. It must have like never been outside. So I got enough trust, and I had to just kind of sit down with its back towards the road as cars went by, and it would start to get worried, and it's like, okay, I guess he's chill. I'm chill. That's okay. And after a while, you just can't stay in the same state of anxiety indefinitely. Eventually, they will calm down and realize that what they thought was a threat really isn't a threat. And a lot of it is they're looking to you to see how confident you are. And if you're like totally chill and not even thinking about it, they're like, okay, well, he seems to know what's going on here, so he's chill, I'm chill. Had a man hater. There were a couple of dogs that just did not want to be walked. They just didn't trust anybody. They didn't want to come out of the cage. And a couple of times, and this is back before I had like a smartphone, so I would just like sit next to the cage, close enough that it could smell me, and just play like solitaire or something on my phone until, you know, and just jingling the chain every so often, just like, because every dog knows that. Oh, and I eventually brought in my own leash because I guess there was a donation, and like all the leashes there were like chain leashes, and for dogs with anxiety, that kind of clinking sound isn't really helpful. So just like a regular nylon strap leash was really useful. And to get back that, I would eventually it would want to come out. And even the man hater, the one that would not let men anywhere near her, eventually it just got comfortable with me being around, and, you know, forgot that it was supposed to be afraid of men, and let me take it for a walk. And I come back in, and the three ladies at the desk are just watching me walk, and I would tire them out too, because I would be out there, and I'd even run with them if they were so inclined. And they come back, and they're all chill and like walking right next to me, even though the leash is slack, and just looking at me, follow my lead, and just like walking by the chick, the women, the actual paid employees past the front desk, you know, with these problem dogs totally chill coming back in. See, I had earned a lot of respect there, and I thought it was because I was such an awesome dog walker, but there was something else going on behind the scenes that I didn't know about, you know? I was not accustomed to this level of deference and respect. Like, if I asked for anything, they're like, oh, yeah, no. And it's like, I almost didn't want to ask because I knew they were just going to, like, be, you know, give me what I wanted. A big part of that is they thought I was there on community service, and I'd basically said, I'm only going to do the things I want to do. And like everybody just capitulated to that. So everybody thought I was just there on community service, just telling everybody what's going to be, and everybody being like, oh, okay. So I didn't realize this other layer of what was going on there. I just thought they thought I was a really good dog walker. Eventually one of the people who were actually there on community service. Oh, you motherfucker. Like actually approached me. He's like, aren't you afraid they're gonna get you reassigned or not give you credit for as many hours or something? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like I have like 100 hours to go, man. I wouldn't risk ticking them off because this is a good assignment. I'm like, I still didn't get it. He's like, well, how many hours do you have? I was like, what do you mean? I'm just volunteering. He's like, wait, you're not on community service? I'm like, no, I'm just here to help. Like, everybody thinks you're here on community service. And when the director came back like 2 weeks later, it's like, nothing really happened. Nothing really came of it, but it's just funny how, like, if I had been on community service and I walked in there, there's no way I would have had the confidence to just say, no, I'm doing this. But if I had behaved in the exact same way as I actually did, even though I had community service, it would have played out the same way. And it's kind of funny, being assertive without being aggressive, and being confident and being chill very powerful. I would recommend anybody with like assertive, who doesn't, who feels that they aren't as assertive as they could be, or they let people walk all over them, or they're afraid to say what it is they want. Watch some dog whisper, go walk some dogs. I've come a very, very long way. And uh-oh. Okay, little stutter there. And I don't, if I were to put together a top 10, this would definitely be on one of the biggest things that helped me grow. And it felt really, really good too. And probably the greatest moment I had was, there was a blind Irish setter. And I'm just like, and they're like, you really have to be careful. You have to like help, because there wasn't an egress or a ramp. So, it was just curb and get her up on the sidewalk. And, she was really timid because, you're blind and, you run into stuff enough times and, that's how you would be. It's not like a dog can put hands out in front of them to see what they might be running into. So I brought her out, and this is going to sound cruel, but as soon as we got to a certain, got out there, she just like started to want to pee, and it was like, a little quick tug, like, hey, I'm running this. I'll let you know when you can pee. And it's not like I made her wait much longer, but it was important to say, hey, I'm the guy running the show here, and didn't go much further, let her pee, and then just started walking up and down. We just stayed on that stretch. Because I wanted even ground as a sidewalk. And went up and down, and each time I tried to pick up the pace a little bit, and she was kind of startled by the sound of my footfalls, just my foot hitting the ground when I go to a higher speed, but she'd get it, and for the most part, just gentle little nudging tugs on the leash was enough to keep her straight on the sidewalk, and back and forth, picking up speed. She get a little scared, but then she get used to it, and then something kind of amazing happened. I stopped having to make corrections with a leash. She apparently, from the sound of my footfalls alone, was able to maintain her position relative to mine. So she was a blind dog, slack leash. And eventually we got to the point where I'm in a full run, she's in a full run, her tongue's out, her tail's up. She probably hasn't run in years, because apparently, she wasn't always blind, but she'd been blind for years. Like, she had not run like this in years. And the only way she could have gotten there is if she really, really trusted the person. And it felt really, really awesome to have been able to do that for her. That seems like a good place to stop. I am the expert layman. Go out and walk a dog.